My name is Simon Mansell, and I'm so happy that you've decided to join me today for episode 17 of YMB Movie Talk. We're really getting on these podcasts now, guys, and I'm so excited that you guys are joining me today. Right, before we get into the show, little reminder for those who haven't seen YMB Movie Talk before. This show basically is a show where we discuss film, the best thing in the world. We come here all as film fans, all as friends, and we discuss loads of things going on in the world of film. So whether it be current movie news, reviewing films, talking about trailers, casting news, all of that, you can find all of that right here on YMB Movie Talk. So, also, before we get into the show, at the end of the show, what we usually do is, if people want to send in any questions that they want answered in on the show, what you can do is send them to the tip link down in the description below. So if you want to send any questions in, there is a tip link. It's basically, you can spend as little as £1 to send any type of question that you want in relating to the world of film, and you will get it answered here on the show at the end. So make sure you do that, guys, if you want any questions sent in. Remember to use the tip link. The live chat on YouTube, I will not be using that for questions. That will be just for yourselves to discuss films and stuff like that. But in the meantime, we have to talk about this massive piece of movie news, guys, right? This is the first topic that I'm covering today, and this is huge news, massive news. There's been a lot of reports recently. I think it was yesterday, actually. It was reported that Sony Pictures, obviously, who own the cinematic film rights to the character of Spider-Man, obviously they've got this shared deal at the moment with Marvel Studios, but they are the ones that hold the sole rights for the character. So any kind of film away from the main MCU, that is done by Sony, and then, you know, the MCU kind of take over from there when he's in the MCU films. But it's been reported, and you can tell by the title of this video, that according to reports, now this isn't confirmed as well, I have to state that and really reiterate that fact. This is not confirmed. This is a report, right? So it's more than a rumour, it's more than hearsay. This is a report, right? This has been reported by all the major movie news outlets out there. So this is not just something that's been on, like, CosmicSpidermanNews.com, right? This is an established report. And that is that Sony Pictures are looking to develop Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4 starring Tobey Maguire. Oh my God, I'm so excited for this. This, right, will this happen? Right, let's start off with that first before we talk about anything else. Will this actually happen? I'm 50-50 on this, because let's just get this straight, right? This would be huge if this happened. But there is a lot of reasons why this might not happen. Right, there's a lot of reasons to suspect this might not happen, it might happen. There's a lot of reasons to suspect that, right? But there is a lot of things going for this report that does make sense in a way, right? We have Sam Raimi, the director of the original Spider-Man trilogy. Hang on, let me just sort my audio out, guys. I'm getting echo. Okay, can you guys still hear me if I do that? I don't know if you guys can still hear me. Sorry, I was having really bad echo in my headphones. It was really distracting, but I don't know if that's sorted now. But anyway, let's get back on Spider-Man. Right. Yes, the director Sam Raimi, who obviously directed the original Spider-Man trilogy, one of the greatest, you know, big blockbuster film series of all time, in my opinion. A massive part of my childhood, really established the modern superhero film, what the modern superhero film would be and is today. He is actually directing a film in the MCU. So he's back doing the comic book genre, back doing the superhero films. And that is with Sam Raimi doing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I think is due to come out next year. I think it's next year, like early next year. So that's not too far away at all. So obviously you have the original director of the Spider-Man series, and also we have the whole multiverse aspect in the new Spider-Man film as well. Spider-Man No Way Home. There we go. Spider-Man No Way Home is going to deal with, it seems like, obviously this is just judging by the casting news, it looks like this is going to deal with the multiverse. It does seem like that. This is by the fact that we're having Alfred Molina come back to play Dr. Otto Octavius, and we're also getting Jamie Foxx coming back from the Amazing Spider-Man series playing Electro. So we have Molina coming back. We have Jamie Foxx coming back. There's reports that we're going to see Emma Stone and Kirsten Dunst come back. There's reports we're going to see Willem Dafoe come back as the Green Goblin and Thomas Hayden Church come back as Sandman. And so there's so many rumours going around about this upcoming Spider-Man film. But it's very clear, because of the confirmed castings of Molina and Foxx, that they are going to kind of delve into the possibility of the multiverse. At least it's going to go into that, right? At least it will go into the possibility of the multiverse. So, due to these rumours, it's been, really, really pushed that we're going to see Maguire and Garfield in this film, the upcoming Spider-Man film. And it makes sense. It does make sense for many reasons, because obviously we're getting the old characters back from their respective franchises. If we're going to see this Spider-Man multiverse, the Spider-Verse in live action, right? Is that what we're going to see? It makes sense to have Maguire and Garfield there. So, to hear that Sony are actually considering, now this is just considering, this isn't advanced talks, there's no pre-production, there's not a script or anything like that, right? I think just to make that clear, that's not what's going on here. This is just reports and in the early stages of development of seeing Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4. Guys, I feel like crying. You have no idea. One of my most anticipated films that I never got to see of all time was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4. Right? It was meant to come out in, I think, May 2011. It was meant to deal with, we was going to have Maguire come back. We was going to have Kirsten Dunst come back. We was going to have some villains. We was going to have John Malkovich as the Vulture. We was going to have Bruce Campbell appear as Mysterio. We was going to get all these things happening. And it never happened because Sam Raimi had such a bad experience working on Spider-Man 3. He felt he couldn't get the Spider-Man 4 script the way he wanted it. And the two parted ways. Sony was already developing a Spider-Man reboot anyway. So the two parted ways, and we never got the Spider-Man 4 film that we all wanted. But it seems like we're actually going to get that. Seems like that could happen. Now, like I said, I'm 50-50 on this. Do I think this will happen? Maybe. It might happen. And the reasons are because the MCU is dealing with the multiverse. We're getting Molina back, who is from Maguire's Spider-Man series and from, Raimi's Spider-Man series from the early 2000s. He's coming back. So it kind of makes sense that we will get Maguire come back as Peter Parker. Will they do a Spider-Man 4? I don't know, guy. I honestly, this is crazy. If this happens, this has got to be one of the biggest things ever to happen in the world of film. As far as just a surprise, right? As something that we never thought would happen, something that we would never expect to happen. If this happens, it will be crazy. It will literally blow the internet up if this happens, right? And I myself will blow up as a human being. I will literally explode. If this happens, I will literally jump off my balcony there. I will jump off because I will be so excited. Like I said, I love the original Spider-Man series, right? Now, there are a few things going against this, right? It's not, like I said, it's not confirmed that Tobey Maguire is even going to be in the new Spider-Man film. It's not even confirmed that that's going to happen yet. At the moment, it's just rumours and speculation. Due to the other pieces of casting news that we have had for Spider-Man No Way Home, we kind of put two and two together, and it makes sense that they'll do that. But that's not been confirmed yet. Tobey Maguire has not been confirmed for Spider-Man No Way Home. He's not been confirmed for that. So that's a big point there, right? It's not like he's been confirmed. We know he's going to be in the film. Then we'd have more of an expectation for this Spider-Man 4 to happen. But that's not happened yet. Like, we don't know if he actually is in this yet. And another thing kind of going against the possibility this might happen is that Tobey Maguire isn't acting anymore. Right? Tobey Maguire has been, I think his last film that he was acting as part of the cast, like an actor, was like 2014 or 2015. He was in some biographical drama. I can't remember the name of the film, but he was in like a drama. And we haven't seen him since, as far as an actor goes. We haven't seen Tobey Maguire on the big screen since. However, he's been very involved in producing films, right? He's produced many films in that time, but he's kind of gone more behind the camera than staying in front of it. So that obviously asks a lot of questions that, okay, we're getting all these old characters come back from different universes, Will we see Tobey Maguire actually come back to acting? Because he doesn't act anymore. Tobey Maguire hasn't acted for years. So is it one of these things where would he come back to do a Spider-Man 4? Is he even going to come back to do Spider-Man Far From... I keep saying Far From Home. Spider-Man No Way Home. Will he even come back to do that? Because I personally don't know. It's tough to say, right? Maguire's always been very praising of his time in the role of Spider-Man, right? He's always been very positive, you know. He's always said how much he's loved playing the character, and you know he enjoyed his time doing it, right? Sam Raimi, as we all know, is a massive Spider-Man fan. He grew up as a big Spider-Man fan. He did that original trilogy that a lot of people, myself included, really love, despite the flaws in it and despite some things in it. I do love that original trilogy. Even the third film has a special place for me. So it's a tough one. Will this happen? I don't know. But I hope it happens. If this ends up happening, I don't think we're going to know properly until we get the new Spider-Man film. Until we get Spider-Man No Way Home, we will not know, I don't think. I don't think we'll know this. We know that Sony are having the conversation. We know that as a fact. We know Sony are having the conversation about doing this Spider-Man 4, doing this continuity thing with the original Spider-Man films. We know that they're having that talk. So that's a discussion that they're having. And also, if you remember, it was the Sony leaks, right? Remember those leaks a few years ago with that James Franco, Seth Rogen film, The Interview, and all those Sony leaks came out. And one of the things in those leaks, they were going to do a Spider-Man like reboot or a continuation of the original series with Tobey Maguire coming back. That was one of the ideas that they had. So this is something that Sony have had in their mind for a while. I think if you look at the success of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animated film that came out a few years ago, that had a lot of people talking, a lot of people loved that film, myself included. That film set a lot of expectations, and I think now we're going into the more different timelines, alternate realities, the multiverse. That kind of is coming into the MCU. We know that for a fact. Obviously, with Doctor Strange, WandaVision touched on that a little bit, looked at that a little bit. We know we're getting something kind of like that in the new Spider-Man film. We're getting, in the Loki series, they're going to be dealing with alternate realities and stuff. So we know that that's going to happen. So it makes sense for this to happen, right? With Maguire coming back, Raimi's already in the MCU because he's doing Doctor Strange. It makes sense. So, in closing on this particular topic, what do you guys think? Do you guys think this will happen? Because for me, like I said, I'm 50-50. And I don't think we will know until we get Spider-Man No Way Home at the end of this year. So we're not going to know until Christmas time, I don't think. When this new Spider-Man film comes out at Christmas, then we'll know more. But for now, at this particular moment in time, I can't say yes or no. There's reasons for both. I think it could happen, but then there are reasons to believe that it won't happen. But my God, I hope it happens. If this happens, trust me, you will see me cry on stream. You will see me cry live on this podcast if this happens. Right, okay, we're going to get on to the second topic today, guys. And the second topic today is talking about a little film coming out this year, and that is Dune. Yes, I don't know if it's... How do you pronounce it? Is it Dune or June? I don't know if it's... Is it like June, like a sand dune? I'm terrible with pronouncing words. I think it's Dune, right? This original, based on the book, right? The what's his name? Hodorowski or something. Based on his novel, Dune, one of the most ambitious sci-fi novels of all time. We're getting it directed by Denis Villeneuve, who directed Blade Runner 2049. He directed Prisoners. I think he did Prisoners, right? Very, very talented director. One of the most talented directors around right now. Very, very, very talented. So I'm excited to see him tackle this property. It's got an amazing cast it's got an amazing cast that's coming together. We've got Dave Bautista, who's been really shining in recent years. We've got Oscar Isaacs in there. Javier Bardem's in there. So it's got a really good cast. So I'm excited to see this film. And it has been announced that this film, which was originally supposed to be premiering simultaneously in cinemas and on the American streaming service HBO Max, they was going to premiere together at the same time. They was going to do like so people had the option to stay at home and stream it or go to cinemas to watch it. It seems now that the production studio, Legendary Pictures, they seem to be heading, should I say, they seem to be heading towards going directly towards a cinematic release. Now, again, this is big news because HBO Max has been used very, very well by Warner Brothers. Right? Warner Brothers, who work very heavily with Legendary Studios, they have a very long relationship with that production company. So Dune is being produced by Legendary, right? And obviously, Warner Brothers will be the distributor. They'll be the one distributing the film in cinemas and HBO Max. HBO Max is owned by Warner Brothers. So we've been seeing a lot of Warner Brothers properties recently being released on HBO Max. And they've done very well on HBO Max. We saw Wonder Woman 84 be released on there. Got a lot of traction on HBO Max. Did very well. We got Zack Snyder's Justice League. That was released on HBO Max. Did very well on there also. We've had Godzilla vs. Kong that's been released on HBO Max. We've had the Mortal Kombat's coming out. So HBO Max has been used very, very well by Warner Brothers. It's been used very well by Warner Brothers to distribute their films in this COVID environment that we're currently in. It's been used very, very well by Warner Brothers, so I give them credit for that. However, it seems as though they will be holding back on the HBO premiere of June. Now, do I think this is a good idea? For one, obviously, this film isn't due out yet. This film is not due out anywhere near yet. This is a film that's due nearer the end of the year. I think it's due in October, right? And obviously, I'm English. I don't have HBO Max, right? But when it gets released on HBO Max, then it will come onto streaming services or like a digital download or something over in England. So it does it reflects what will happen over here as much as it does over in America, because if it releases on HBO Max in America, then it will release simultaneously over here in England. So I have a vested interest in this, obviously. It's a film I'm looking forward to. I really want to see it. And it seems as though this is going to go straight to cinemas. Like I said, I don't know if this is a good idea, because I think a lot of people, especially elderly people and people who are more prone to illness, are very uncomfortable at the moment in this COVID environment, and I doubt that will go away in October. I think that is still going to be there in October. I would think so anyway. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, how well this vaccine's going to work, and how well the numbers are going to come down. But a lot of people really are only going to want to stay at home to watch a film. A lot of people don't feel like going to the cinema, especially in the cinemas, right, where you have a lot of people in a very kind of small room. They're in a crowded room together. You can take all the precautions you want, but there is still a risk there. And a lot of people are not going to want to take that risk. So to have the film come out directly in cinemas and not giving people the option to watch it at the same time on HBO Max or through a different streaming service, I think it could be a little bit of a mistake. I personally prefer going to watch a film in the cinemas. I prefer going to the cinemas. I prefer having that cinematic big screen experience. That's what I prefer. That's what I like. That's what I prefer. That's my go-to. Is going to the cinemas with the big screens and the the atmosphere, the whole thing that you do pre going into the cinemas. Right, you get all your food, your drinks, all this. Talk about the film, get excited, go with friends, go with family. You know, you've got the big sound system in there. You've got like I said, the big screen if you're watching it on IMAX as well. So we get a lot of that. You get a lot more benefit for me going to the cinemas. But that's just for me. A lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people prefer to stay at home, watching it on their TV from the comfort of their own home. I think giving the people the option, especially in the climate we're in at the moment, I think makes sense to do that. I think it's a good idea to do that, actually. I think it's been shown through the results from Godzilla vs. Kong. That's tracking very well at the moment. Mortal Kombat, that seems to, have a lot of hype around it. Zack Snyder's Justice League probably underperformed a little bit, but due to the length of the film, in my opinion, it's done very well. Wonder Woman 84 did big numbers as well, so it's definitely working. The whole streaming thing, it's working. Disney are doing it, don't forget, with Black Widow. That's coming out on Disney Plus with the premium access, and it's coming out in cinemas at the same time. So it gives people the option. I think giving people the option in the current climate we're in is important. But it seems like Warner Brothers are not going to do that with Dune. And it's a shame for some people, but look, for me, I'll watch it in the cinemas anyway. So it doesn't really affect me personally because I was going to watch it in the cinemas regardless. Whether it came out at streaming services first, whether it comes out in cinemas first. I was always going to choose going to the cinemas first. That's what I was going to go to. That's always going to be my preference, is going to the cinemas to watch it there. So that for me is what I would do. But I'm not everyone. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their own preferences. And I think giving people the option in the climate we're in is very important for movie studios to kind of acknowledge that and show that. But let me know your thoughts on that, guys. What do you think of Dune being released exclusively in cinemas? Do you think it will harm the film? Do you think it will help the film? Do you think it will get more people out to the cinemas? Do you think it will maybe underperform a little bit? What do you guys think of that, guys? Put it in the live chat. What do you guys think will happen with this Dune film not being released simultaneously? Right, to get on to the next topic today, guys. And that topic, I think this piece of news was released a few days ago. No, but obviously I do my podcast every few days. It's not a daily show, so there's a bit of movie news to catch up on. But that is talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the long-awaited Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the much speculated about Guardians of the Galaxy 3 at this point, right? These films had a nightmare production, mainly due to what happened with James Gunn and then what happened with COVID. It's stifled the production of this film, right? But the script's already been done. It needs to be altered in some way, but it's more or less done. The story, at least, of the film is done. It's there. It's ready. But obviously with James Gunn having left the original production of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he went on to do other things. He's worked on the new Suicide Squad film that's coming out. He's working on the Peacemaker spin-off, the John Cena character in that film. He's getting a spin-off on HBO Max, and he's helping produce that and work on that. So, he has announced that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will go into production this year. This is news we already kind of knew anyway. I think it was Batista last year, Dave Batista, near the end of last year, said that he's expecting the film to go into production in 2021. He would be surprised if it didn't. So it seems like James Gunn's basically just reiterating what's going to happen, but Dave Batista said was going to happen anyway. Now, there's no specific date for production that we've got yet. We don't know specifically when it's going to start filming. Obviously, James Gunn, like I said, he's still busy working on the Suicide Squad film, getting all the post-production done for that. Then he's also working on the Peacemaker series for HBO Max. So he's got a lot on his plate right now. But I do think that Guardians will definitely go into production this year. I mean, I think it's due to come out in 2023. So it's still got a bit of time. Like, a lot of films don't go into production until like a few months or like a year as far as filming goes, right? They'll be in pre-production, getting everything ready, but the actual filming, they usually don't do that until like a year before anyway. So, look, if this film doesn't end up getting like filmed this year, it wouldn't be a massive shock. Say if they delayed it or whatever happens, it wouldn't be a huge shock. But it does seem like we are going to get Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being filmed this year, and I'm excited to see this film. I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with Suicide Squad as well. I'm excited to see his take on that. I'm excited to see what he does with that. He's a very talented filmmaker, got a lot of good humour there. He's got a very unique style, and it fits perfectly for Guardians and the Marvel world. Right? It fits perfectly for that. So I'm excited to see Guardians 3. Are you guys excited to see it? Are you guys excited that this film is finally going into production after all these years of, you know, being cancelled, and then James Gunn's left the property, and then we're looking for a new director, but then we brought James Gunn back, but we have to wait for him to do Suicide Squad and all these different things. Are you finally excited that this film is finally going into filming production? Right. Getting on to the last topic today, guys, and if you watch my last podcast, you probably will know where I'm going with this. And that is talking about the rest of the Harry Potter series. If you watched episode 16 of YMB Movie Talk, you will know that I started reviewing the Harry Potter films. I got from Philosopher's Stone all the way through till Order of the Phoenix. So I did a big bulk review. You can find the individual reviews on my YouTube channel. If you don't want to watch through all the podcasts, you just want to find specific reviews for the film you want to see, you can find that on my YouTube channel. I have a playlist as well of all the different films that I reviewed so far. You can find those on a playlist on my YouTube channel. So, getting back onto reviewing the Harry Potter films. This will follow from Half-Blood Prince all the way through till Crimes of Grindelwald. So there's a few films to talk about here. We've got about 6 films I think to talk about, but it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to talk Harry Potter. You know this. You know I love talking Harry Potter. There's not much I love more talking about than Harry Potter. So, we will start with Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. David Yates back again as director. I liked what he did with Order of the Phoenix. I thought that the film is good. It's a very good film. I think it just a bit too overloaded. This film, if anything, is the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. This film is... It's hard to describe this film for me because, and not in a bad way. Like, I don't think this film is bad, right? I'm not going to say this film is a bad film because I don't think it is. I don't think Half-Blood Prince is a bad film, right? It's just very, very hard to get through. It's very hard to get through, and what I mean by that is this film is very, very slow. It's very slow paced. There's not a lot of action in this film. It's a lot of character building and like setting up the next film, right? That's what this film is really. It's a lot of, right, in my opinion, it's a lot of pointless stuff in this film that probably didn't need to be there. There's a lot of things, and I think the things that are in there don't work well enough to carry the film, in my opinion. They don't work well enough. The main thing I'm going to talk about with this is the Harry and Ginny relationship. Oh my God. Where do I even start with this? Honestly, Harry and Ginny in the books are great. Really, really great. Harry and Ginny in the films, they've barely even said 2 words to each other. They had a little bit of like a romantic like beginning in Chamber of Secrets, like an awkward stare here and there, like Ginny just being awkward around Harry. We had that little bit in there, right? And then in Order of the Phoenix, it was like a little look here, like, but it wasn't like, strong, right? It wasn't exactly strong. Like they never really share any time together. They never share any any scenes together. They don't build up each other's relationship. They don't have real good chemistry there. There's not enough there to go on. This film almost pretends like we've had 5 films of nothing but Ginny and Harry awkwardly like ducking each other, right? And it's so weird because in this film they're like fraternizing over each other. They just can't stop looking at each other. There's this awkward tension there. And it literally has come out of nowhere. Like, this film picks up more or less right after the events of Order of the Phoenix. Right? It's a few weeks later, after the death of Sirius and Harry kind of, that the whole world knows that Voldemort's back now. And Harry and Jenny just kind of, it just happens out of nowhere. It's so jarring and weird. Like, I can't stress enough how much I hate them in this film. Like, every scene with Harry and Ginny feels so forced. I think that's the best way to describe this relationship in this film. It feels extremely forced. It feels forced and shoved down your throat. Like, really, really badly. It just feels like David Yates is saying, look, we need to set this up for other things. Let's focus on this and try and build their relationship. But it doesn't work. It doesn't feel natural. I think Bonnie Wright... Is Bonnie Wright a good actress? In my opinion, not really. Not really. She feels kind of stilted, a bit awkward, and not in like a cute way, like in the fact that like these characters are together on screen and they're having these awkward moments as characters. She just feels very awkward in the role. She doesn't have a lot of confidence. She feels very like she's kind of staggering through her lines a little bit. It's very weird. It feels like a very restrained performance from Bonnie Wright. And I think with this film being very slow as it is, right, it's like I said, very slow film. Not much really happens in this film. It's a lot of build-up, right? It's a lot of people just standing around talking, a lot of pointless scenes for me. I think at this point in the series, we don't need a forced love relationship. We don't need it, in my opinion. Whether it was in the books or not in the books, these are the films. You have to do what's best for your film. And I don't think focusing so heavily on Harry and Ginny made sense for the film. I will stick by that forever. No matter how many times... I've watched Half-Blood Prince many times. I've watched it many times, and every time I watch it, the thing that sticks out the most to me is how poorly they did the Harry and Ginny relationship. It just doesn't work for me. Away from that, there are some good things in this film. Like, I'm not going to say that Half-Blood Prince is bad. It's not terrible. There are some good things. I like the character development of Draco Malfoy. I think that they really did well with his character. They gave him this like emotional kind of resonance for the audience, right? We're seeing this child being forced to commit these really heinous acts that he clearly doesn't want to do. He clearly doesn't want to. He wants to do it to impress his dad and impress Voldemort and try and act cool, right? But you can tell he's very uncomfortable in doing the things he's doing. And I think Tom Felton, I've always said this, and I still stay by this today. Tom Felton, in those films, is the best child actor out of the entire Harry Potter series. And I'll stay by that. I'll stick with that. I think as they've developed, the actors have developed through time, I think Daniel Radcliffe has ended up becoming a very, very good actor. Very, very good actor. But I think Tom Felton in the films is always the best child actor. Despite his limited screen time, he really gets to shine in this film. He gets to shine. You feel very sorry for Draco. You feel very sympathetic towards him. The end scene with Dumbledore, you can really feel his struggle and his pain, and he plays it really well. So fair play to Tom Felton for that. He was one of the best parts of the film. Alan Rickman, as always, amazing as Snape. Probably the best character in the film for me. Even though in the film, kind of contained within the story of the film, again, it feels like they've missed things out from the other films, because this film starts off and we've had no indication that Snape is alone with Voldemort. We've had no indication at all. This film literally starts with Snape. The first time you see Snape, he's with Peter Pettigrew in this house in London, and Bellatrix and Narcissa go to see Snape to do the unbreakable vow with him, right? When was this established? When was this established that Snape's got anything to do with Voldemort currently? We know he has a history with Voldemort, but it's been very, very clearly shown that he's aligned with Dumbledore. So it's a little bit jarring to see... Oh, I thought that was a PS5 going. I got excited that I'm still waiting for this PS5. It's doing my head in. Right, back onto Harry Potter. Yeah. We just don't see... we don't get this setup for him. It's just kind of shoved in there. Right, Snape's now with Voldemort. There you go. Take it. Take it. He's now with Voldemort. Just accept it. And it doesn't make any sense. It's very forced, very shoved in our faces, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. We don't get a lot of Voldemort's backstory as well, which I feel was heavily missed from the books. Like I said, the books are the books and the films are the films. But I feel like if you would have took out a lot of the pointless scenes, like, for example, the attack on the Burrow, which wasn't in the books, was in the films, it kind of doesn't make sense that this would happen. This supposedly well-protected environment, right? That they have all these protective charms around the bungalow. Not the bungalow. The bungalow. What? The bungalow. Okay. Yeah. They have all these protective charms apparently for the Burrow, right? How is Fenrir Greyback and Bellatrix Lestrange just able to just black smoke their way into the Burrow? It, like, again, these are things that it doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be there, and it's taken away from the main story. The main story of this film is Voldemort is trying to overthrow Dumbledore. Once he's overthrown Dumbledore, he can rise back to power. But he can't do it himself because obviously everyone knows now and the castle's protecting all this. So he has to kind of get an insider to do it. That person's Draco, right? That's the most compelling part of the film. I feel like it would have been more compelling if Voldemort would have had more of a presence in the film, not as Voldemort himself, right? If we would have learnt more about his backstory, his whole relationship, about his mom and his dad, if that would have been developed more from the books, you know, if anyone's read the books, you know that Voldemort was conceived via a love potion because his mother, who was kind of ugly, and she was like a witch, right? She was a squib, not a squib. She was basically, she couldn't control her powers. She was Obscurus, I think. Was she an Obscurus? I don't. Or she might have been a squib. I'm not sure. But anyway, she come from a magic family. She was kind of ugly. She really fancied Tom Riddle, who was Voldemort's dad, right? He was named after him. So Tom Riddle Senior, he was like this really good-looking posh kid, right, from their same area. But I think Voldemort's mom was called Merope. I think Merope Gaunt. Yeah, so Merope was kind of ugly, kind of disgusting. No one wanted her, right? So she took love potion to be able to get. She gave Tom Riddle Senior, love potion to be able to basically fall in love with her, to force them to be together. From this, they end up having Tom Riddle Jr., obviously, who ends up being Voldemort, but he was conceived through a love potion, which isn't a real form of love, so therefore Voldemort can't feel love, and that's why he's the way he is, right? That is very, very compelling. We don't get none of that in this film. We get literally none of that at all in this film. We get none of it. We get nothing about his backstory. We get slight inklings. We get slight little snippets, right, for the whole thing with him in the orphanage, which is very, very much glossed over. It's a good scene, but very glossed over. We get scenes of him talking to Slughorn to try and find out about Horcruxes, which, again, doesn't make much sense because Tom Riddle already kind of knows what he's talking about, but he has to get it from Slughorn. It's, again, doesn't make a lot of sense. I just feel this film would have been better if they would have developed Voldemort more. If they would have developed Voldemort more and kind of went more into his backstory, that would have then showed you look, this is the guy that he's ended up being the way he is now. This is the person he is now. This is the person he used to be. This is the reason the way he is now. You know, that would have been a very compelling story, along with the whole thing with Draco and, you know, and the whole thing with Slughorn. That could have been a very interesting film, despite the lack of action and all that. It could have been a very interesting character study. It could have been a very kind of introspective, deep, developing story for these characters. But unfortunately, we just don't get that here. It's just this weird, like, half of it tries to be this awkward teen romance film. The other half, it tries to be this really intense drama. And then we get, like, little bits of action here and there. But it's kind of a mess, really. And I think Half-Blood Prince, for me, including as well, I have to talk about this. I don't know what David Yates and the cinematographer was thinking, but this film looks ugly as shit. This is the ugliest looking Harry Potter film. It's almost got this like green Vaseline filter over it, the whole film. It's got this horrible green brown colour tone. It's weird. It's really, really weird and really jarring as well. The film's very, very dark. And when I say dark, I don't mean tonally dark, which is in some parts quite dark tonally, but I just mean visually, from a visual standpoint. Half of the scenes, you can barely even see what's going on. Like, it's that dark. Like, as in dark light. Like, you can't barely see anything. Like, really poorly lit. So I don't think the film looks great either. If it would have looked great and had good visual effects and good colour correction, good cinematography, then fair enough. But this film doesn't have that. It's a very ugly film to look at, to be honest. But I think the whole story with... Oh, and another thing as well. Okay, the more I talk about this film, the more I realise, actually, I don't like it. I went into this thinking, you know what, actually, Half-Blood Prince isn't actually that bad. And then the more I talk about it, the more I realise, actually, this film is actually quite bad. Like, the Ron and Lavender stuff, oh my god. Oh my god. I know it's meant to be cringy and a bit cheesy, but it's just this conflicting vision, this conflicting tone that we get between all this dark stuff with Draco, all this introspective dark storytelling with Draco, and then you get this weird, goofy teen romance, right, with Harry and Jenny, and then Ron and Lavender, and it's this weird kind of love triangle between, like, yeah, it's just full of love triangles everywhere. There's, like, Harry, Ginny, and Dean Thomas, and then you've got, like, Ron, Hermione, and Lavender. There's all these teen dramas going on, and it's just, at this point in the series, we're in the 6th film now. The last film built up that, look, Voldemort's here, he's literally coming, like, we need to prepare for this, we need to stop him taking over, and yet the whole world's got all this time to be a goofy teen romance. For me, it's just not, it doesn't make sense. I think for me, it's probably the weakest in the series, the more I think about it. At least Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets were coherent stories, and at least they had a consistent tone. This does not have that, and it really, really makes the film hold back a bit. I think the lack of development for some of the characters, I think some of the unnecessary added story bits that didn't need to be there, the underdeveloped relationships, the ugly visual style of the film, just, it isn't a great experience to watch, in my opinion. But look, if you guys like it, that's great for you. For me, it's the weakest part. It's the weakest film in the series, I think. I'd definitely say that. I think it's the weakest film in the series. Then again, maybe Crimes of Grindelwald. Maybe I'll have to wait to talk about Crimes of Grindelwald before I get to judging whether Half-Blood Prince is actually the worst in the series. But it's close. It's very, very close. Right, getting away from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, let's talk about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. This film is very controversial for many reasons. This was the film that started this annoying, unnecessary trend that's going on in Hollywood and has been going on now for at least a solid 10 years since this film came out. Unnecessarily splitting a book or a film into 2 parts, right? We had it with Twilight, we had it with the Hobbit films, we had it with, we've had it with so many films at this point. We had it with Hunger Games, right, with Mockingjay. It's just had it so many times now, and it's ruined so many potentially good films. But in this film, I think it works. And hear me out on this. I know this is going to be controversial. I know a lot of people don't like this film. For me, I love Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I think it's a very, very good film. And look, again, this might sound a bit contradictory of me to say, because I'm on one hand, I'm saying that, you know, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is this slow, boring, nothing really happens kind of film, right? No action, barely anything happens. Yeah, I like Deathly Hallows Part 1, which is very much similar in that sense. Like, a lot of this film is Harry, Ron, Hermione hiding away from Snatchers, camping out in the woods, talking about how shit their lives are, right? And it kind of goes along that trajectory in this film as far as the storytelling goes. But I think it's done so much better here. It's done so much better. And the main reason is because I think all of the scenes that are slow scenes, some people might call them slow scenes, I think they are necessary. I think they're necessary in the sense that every single scene feels like it needs to be there, and every single scene develops the characters. Every single scene in this film, in my opinion, develops character. From the first scene in the film, right, with the 7 Harrys and, you know, all that happened, which is a very entertaining scene and very, very well done, I have to say. Good bit of action in there as well. I like that. But when we get away from that and we get Harry and Ron and Hermione out in the woods and hiding and searching for all these bits of information, and that for me is some of the best parts of the film, because you get to see, really for the first time, you get to see this for the first time properly. These kids have always been, even though they get themselves into danger and risk their lives many times, this is the first time they're now without the comfort blanket. They are without the comfort blanket of Hogwarts. Dumbledore's dead. We don't, you know, Snape's took over. There's tyranny, and you know, the government's been overthrown. These characters are on their own. They are on their own, and everyone is out to get them, except from a small group of people. You know, like the rebellion, right? Of the Order of the Phoenix, who are out there supporting them, but everyone is out to get them. And it's this intense thriller in some ways. And I love that about this film. It feels more like an intense thriller drama than it does a dark fantasy film. And I love that about this film because, like I say, it builds characters. You get to learn why Ron would be a little bit angry with Harry. It makes sense that he would be angry with Harry. Like, Harry's took all these people on this, took Ron and Hermione on this journey without really knowing anything. You know, they're risking their lives for something that I don't even think Harry knows why they're risking their lives at some points. So that makes sense. You get those little scenes with Harry and Hermione, right? That dancing scene, which happened in the tent, which actually wasn't in the book. That was added by, David Yates. And I think that scene perfectly encapsulates those two characters, because for so many years, people have said, and even J.K. Rowling has said this herself, she wishes that Harry and Hermione, would have ended up together. But I think that scene perfectly demonstrates that character's relationship, those characters, their relationship with each other. It perfectly encapsulates that, in my opinion, because you can see they love each other. They have this deep affection for each other. They trust each other. But it doesn't go further than that. They are best of friends who are with each other through thick and thin, no matter what. But no matter what happens, they'll never be more than that. And they don't want to be more than that. They had the chance there and then, and they didn't. It didn't happen. Because they don't want to, because they're friends. And I love that, because I think so many other films would have gone the route of they hook up with each other and then it causes beef with Ron when he comes back because he found out that Harry fucked Hermione. Like, honestly, so many films would have done that. I like that this film didn't go down that route. I like the fact that they kind of kept it like a self-contained like a story with those two characters, and I like that with this film. I like that they do that. I think this film builds so well. It feels now. Look, am I going to say this film? It drags a little bit, right? I'm not going to say that everything in this film works really, really well. It's not an amazing film. I think it's very good. I think it's the best film we've had in the series, probably since Azkaban. Actually, I don't know, but is it better than Order of the Phoenix? I'd probably say it might be better than Order of the Phoenix. Actually, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it's definitely better than Goblet of Fire. I'd say it's definitely better than Half-Blood Prince. I don't know if it's better than Order of the Phoenix, but I do think it's at least neck and neck with Order of the Phoenix, if not a bit better. I think the film has these little bits of action in there that break up the monotony of very similar sequences where the characters go to a place, discover something, they have a little bit of a battle, and then go back to square one. I think the action scenes break that up a little bit, right? The whole scene where they invade the Ministry and infiltrate the Ministry under the disguises and try and get the locket from Umbridge. That scene's done really well. Very intense, very funny in some parts as well. It's entertaining. It's very intense. You feel the dread and the need for these characters to get out of the situation that they're in. That works really well. I love the wood chase scene with the snatchers. It's a little bit overdone with the shaky cam, but I like the fact there's no music in there. It's just kind of sound and camera work, this frantic camera work. I like that. Done very well, in my opinion. I like the fact as well that these characters are they have hit rock bottom. Like, they are fucked. You see in this film, like, they are hungry. They're pissed off with each other. They hate what they're doing, but they feel like it's so necessary, like, that they have to just struggle through it. And you feel their pain through it. You feel so sorry for these characters, because up to this point, these characters, yes, they've gone through trials and tribulations. They've gone through ups and downs. But we've never seen them in such like a hopeless situation that we have seen them in this film. In this film, everything has gone terrible. Everything's gone to shit, and they are left on their own to deal with the situation that they're in. And I love the way that this story's been told. I mean, look, does it take some things from other material? I think the book in itself does take a lot from other material. I mean, the locket is basically the one ring from Lord of the Rings. It's the same thing. Like, when you wear it, it can turn you insane and turn you against the people that you... But when you take it off, you feel fine. There is definitely a bit of Lord of the Rings in there. There's a little bit of Star Wars in there. There's a little bit of... it does take some things from other pieces of material. But I think it does it well. And I like the fact that it's not afraid to just let these characters be themselves and just be the characters that they're supposed to be and interact with each other, because then that builds up so much more for the next film. I don't think part 2 works without this film being as focused on character development. I mean, look, we've had 6 films of character development up to this point, right? So we know these characters now, but we've never seen the characters in a situation like this before. And I think it's important to show the characters what they would be like in a situation like this, where they are literally hopeless, on their own, done, right? I think it's important to see the characters in a situation like that. So I really like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. What do you guys think about it? Do you like it? Do you think it's a bit boring? Do you think it's a bit slow? Do you think it needed more action in there? Like, what's your opinion on that? Like I say, I like it. I'll always like it. I like it every time I watch it. If anything, the more times I watch it, the better it gets. But now we have to get onto this, because I've said many times, right, on this podcast, I've said many times, my favourite film I've ever seen in a cinema, my favourite cinematic experience was, and probably will always be Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I still love this film. And it's still as impactful as it was when I first saw it. And the reason I love this film so much, like I said, a lot of it has to do with my affinity for these characters in the franchise. Right? A lot of it has to do with that. I'm not going to deny that, right? I'm not going to deny that I'm probably going to be a little bit biased when talking about this film, but I'm also going to be having that same critical head-on that I've had for a film like Half-Blood Prince, right? Despite it being in the Harry Potter series, I can still be heavily critical of a film if I don't think it's good. This film is perfect. Bold statement, maybe. But for me, this film is as close to a perfect franchise-ending blockbuster that you can get. Before we had Endgame, this was the film. This was the franchise-ending, big, explosive, entertaining experience of a generation. Like, I'm not saying, like, I'm not overblowing this, right? I remember when this film came out, even people who did not like Harry Potter went to see this film. Even people who hadn't even seen the previous films went to see this film. You can tell by the box office, right? This film, how much film? This made like what 1.2 billion at the worldwide box office for like 2010. That's pretty good. This film did big business, and it's no surprising, right? It's not surprising that it did this. This film is perfect for me. I don't have really a bad thing to say about this film, and I think, like I said, a lot of it comes from my affinity from the franchise. And like I said in the review for Deathly Hallows Part 1, this film doesn't work without good setup. Because this film doesn't care about character development. This film doesn't care about setting up story arcs. This is the payoff. This is the payoff from Philosopher's Stone all the way through till this film. For the whole series, this is 10 years of films, 10 years of storytelling, culminating into this big payoff. And I think it is brilliant payoff. It's amazing payoff. As a overall film, is this film like a classic? Is it a perfect film? Is it a Prisoner of Azkaban? Right? No. As a 3-act structure, as a beginning, middle, and end, is this film great? No. But it's not a beginning, middle, and end type of film. This is, imagine Deathly Hallows, right? The first film was the first 2 acts. This is the 3rd act. This is the 3rd act to a bigger story. So you have to kind of take that into context. You can't just watch this film on its own. You can't just randomly pop in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 without watching Part 2 without watching Part 1. It doesn't work. You have to kind of watch them together as a vacuum. It's not like they're 2 separate films. It's not like Infinity War and Endgame, where they're 2 very separate films. They're separate experiences. They can kind of survive on their own. You need to have seen Part 1. It's essential you see Part 1 before you see this, right? Because otherwise you'll be lost and you'll be thinking, there's not a lot of character development here. There's not a lot of, real slow moments. It's just one big roller coaster of a film. We get more Voldemort. Finally, we actually get Voldemort. Like, we actually get Voldemort doing things. He's not just softly talking at a table or popping in at the end of the film for a little glorified cameo. Like, he's actually a presence throughout the entirety of this film. And I think it's much needed because without him being such a presence in this film, it just would have been a little bit boring. Like, if he would have just showed up at the end to fight Harry, it would have been like, we don't know this character well enough. And I still think this, again, comes back to Half-Blood Prince. The character of Voldemort, for me, is underserved a little bit because we don't really know who this person is. Really. We have a bit of backstory here and there. We kind of delve into certain things. But I feel like if we would have knew this character properly, who this character was when he was younger, how was he when he grew up, but all the things that led him to be the person he is, I think this film would have hit way more. So much more. And it would have probably been a great film. But because of that, it's just Voldemort's kind of thrown in there and you just have to kind of go along with it. He's more of a force of nature, really, than a deep, complex villain. He's a force of nature. He's just a big, powerful force of nature that's very hard to stop. Like it's that kind of villain, right? But it works, and I love Ralph Fiennes in this film. He plays it. He's very over the top. Like, I'm not going to say it's this really introspective, dark performance, because it's not. Like, he's visually striking. Like, but that's through makeup and stuff. I think his actual performance is sometimes can be a little bit cheesy and a little bit over the top, but it kind of works. It does kind of work, and I like the fact that we actually see Voldemort and Harry have that conflict at the end and the way it happens, right? I like that. But like I said, guys, this film is just one epic roller coaster of a ride from start to finish. The scene with the Gringotts with the dragon, right, when they escape Gringotts through, when they get into Hogsmeade and they get helped by Dumbledore's brother, then they sneak into Hogwarts, and then they kind of take Hogwarts back, and then the whole Battle of Hogwarts, which is brilliantly done. I have to say, the Battle of Hogwarts is perfectly done. I've been critical of David Yates during this series, this franchise review that I've done for Harry Potter. I've been fairly critical of him so far, especially in Half-Blood Prince. I think in this film he nails it. I think in this film he definitely has nailed this series now. I think this is a good full stop for this series, and he nails the action. The action's spectacularly done. The visual effects are brilliant. The choreography is really good. The imagination, the creativity, and everything. It's just really, really good. We still get those deep character moments. Snape, we get the whole reveal with Snape, which is done perfectly well. Really visually well done, edited together really well. The music is incredible. Alexandre Desplat, for me, is one of the greatest composers of his generation. I think he's phenomenal. I think one year he was nominated for 3 separate Academy, the same award, and he was nominated 3 times in 1 year. So that shows who this guy is, right? His music is brilliant. It has a bit of that John Williams magical feel there, but it has a little bit of the Nicholas Hooper kind of withdrawn dark score, right? And I like the way he's done this. This score is really, really good. Very emotional, very epic, very bombastic and explosive, but also kind of quiet enough and slow enough to really hit in the emotional moments of the film. Like I said, the visual effects are really good. We get good payoff with some of the characters. So the characters are developed pretty well. Characters like Neville develop really well throughout the film. Snape is developed really well. It's just for me, it's the perfect conclusion to a big franchise. Like what Endgame is for this generation, Harry Potter was for my generation. So any kids who have grown up with watching Endgame, that was me. That was any 13-year-old or 14-year-old who watched Endgame when it came out and was like, this is the film for my childhood. That was what Deathly Hallows was for me and for so many others of my age. I think it's a perfect franchise-ending film. It's a perfect, big, bombastic fantasy film. Does it have a bit of Return of the King vibes in there? A little bit. Like I said, this material does borrow from other sources. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't, but I think it pays it off really well. And I love Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. One of my favourite films of all time. Still to this day, I will say it is joint my favourite experience I've ever had in a cinema all time. It's a close, it's neck and neck with Endgame. I can't choose between the two. I think Harry Potter meant more to me and still hits me more emotionally, but Endgame was done so well and developed the characters so well, and I think overall he's probably the better film than Deathly Hallows Part 2. But I think Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a better overall experience than Endgame is. It just depends on your preference. It depends on your preference, and it depends on your affinity for the franchise that you're specifically talking about. Right. So with the main series done, right? This is now we've wrapped up the main series of films. We've wrapped up the main Harry Potter series. We're all done on that, all 8 films. But there is the 2 Fantastic Beasts films that we need to talk about. For me, the most unnecessary prequels ever made. So unnecessary. I've always said I think a Harry Potter sequel series makes more sense. If you're going to do a prequel series, explore the characters of Dumbledore, explore the characters of Voldemort, explore the characters we kind of already know. I think if you're going to introduce new characters, at least make them feel important. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, for me, does not do that. This film feels very underwhelming. It feels very boring, in my opinion. I don't like the characters in this film. The one character that I like is Jacob Kowalski, played by Dan Fogler. For me, he's the best character in any of these films, more than Jude Law's Dumbledore, which obviously appears in the next film, but he's the best character in this film. I don't like Eddie Redmayne in these films. I know Eddie Redmayne's a good actor. He's been nominated for Academy Awards left, right and centre. Very talented actor. But no one's perfect, right? Watch Jupiter Ascending. If you want to see Eddie Redmayne give the worst performance ever, watch Jupiter Ascending. It's hilarious, but it's really bad. And in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, for me, he's doing the Eddie Redmayne thing, right? And what I mean by the Eddie Redmayne thing is, for me, it feels like all of the characters he plays feel the same as far as their individual traits, in their individual personality traits. All these characters are kind of awkward and socially weird and kind of uncomfortable, and they don't know how to speak. He always just this tilted head, weird kind of awkward stare, and it's so unbearable. I don't like him in this film. And I know I'm ranting on Eddie Redmayne. He's a really good actor. He was fantastic in The Theory of Everything. He was brilliant in The Danish Girl. He was great in Les Miserables. For me, as the character of Newt Scamander, I think, is it the fact that I don't like the character of Newt Scamander? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but I just don't like Eddie Redmayne in these films. I don't. Catherine Waterstone's okay. She's fine. The characters for me are not the strongest point of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The one exception that I do like in this film, I love Colin Farrell in this film. I love Colin Farrell. You do feel that there is something more to this character. He plays the character with a little bit more mystery, and he's a very kind of mysterious character, and I like the character that he plays. Obviously, it ends up being Grindelwald, but you don't know that when you first watch the film. Just him playing the character that he's playing, I like Colin Farrell in this. But for me, there's not much I can say on Fantastic Beasts. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just this mediocre, what Ant-Man and the Wasp is, right? What Ant-Man and the Wasp is, or a Captain Marvel is in the MCU, that is what this film is for the Harry Potter series. That's what this film is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just whatever. The visual effects are okay. They're a bit cartoony, and sometimes they don't blend into their environments very well. So I'll stick to that, but the music is okay, I guess. The direction's okay, I guess. The story's interesting. I feel like they should have developed the Salem kind of, the witch aspect of the. I liked all that. That was kind of dark, and the whole thing with Credence and him growing up in the care home that he grew up in, right? I liked that aspect of the film. That was pretty interesting and dark, and that I liked that. But when this film tries to be this this fantastical, fun family film, I just don't like it. I find it very hard to watch Fantastic Beasts. I will be very honest. This film just bores me to death. It bores me so much. And I love Harry Potter. I remember when this film came out, I loved seeing the Harry Potter Warner Brothers intro at the start of the film. That was incredible to see that again on the big screen. But that's nostalgia. I'm not going to give that to this film. That's nostalgia. The little musical callbacks and stuff, that's based on nostalgia. Him saying a certain spell from the Harry Potter films, again, nostalgia. just me basing this film on what it is, I'm not the biggest fan of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. You might like it. I know a lot of people really like it. One of my friends love the Fantastic Beasts films, but I don't think the same way she does. So I'm not going to say I love this film because I don't, right? I'm not a big fan of Fantastic Beasts. I like I said, it's not the fact it's bad, but it's not the fact it's good. It's just very in the middle. And there's nothing more I hate than a mediocre film, because at least if it's bad, I can have an emotion towards it. Like, whether that's a bad emotion, it doesn't matter. At least I've got emotion towards it. I'd rather have that than have nothing. And for me, Fantastic Beasts just gives me nothing. It just feels unnecessary. It feels very boring. The characters aren't interesting. The story really isn't that interesting. There's certain aspects I like, but it's not enough to make me invested in this story. Right. Getting on to the film that I have really been looking forward to talk about. And I can't wait to talk about this because I don't think I ever actually reviewed this. If you want to go to my website, it's yourmovieblogger.weebly.com. Go and check my reviews out there. You'll get more of an extensive look into my opinions on a certain film than I will do on a video. But I don't think I ever actually reviewed Crimes of Grindelwald on there. So I've never actually been able to talk about this film. But I'm so excited to talk about it because this film is dog shit. Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald is so bad on every level. I hate this film. I hate Fantastic Beasts and Crimes of Grindelwald because it's just awful on every level. The acting in this film is shockingly shit awful. Terrible. Everyone is bad in this film. I don't think anyone gives a good performance. And I don't blame them because the script and the screenplay. J.K. Rowling, look, I love J.K. Rowling. I know she's a controversial figure. I still have a special... I can't forget what she's bought my childhood. I can't. Right, it's hard to say, with all the trans stuff, right, that she's said in the past. But as a novelist, I try and separate the art from the artist, right? But her work on these Fantastic Beasts films show me she cannot write a screenplay for anything. Like, honestly, the screenplay in this film is so filled with cliches and these overlapping story arcs that just get muddled up with each other, that don't make any sense at all to what she's previously established. It's just a complete mess from start to finish. Like, even the opening scene got me mad. The opening scene, for me, was infuriating. And you're probably wondering why was I so mad from the opening scene. This film opens with Grindelwald being moved from one prison to another. Not explained why, by the way. Not explained why he's being moved. It's just we've got to move him to. It's there for convenience. It's convenient storytelling. It's lazy storytelling, but whatever. He's just being moved for the sake of it so we can have an action scene start the film. Just so we've got a reason why Grindelwald's no longer in prison, right? So he gets broke out of prison, but he's getting transported, right? He's getting took from one prison to another, not on broom, not through apparition, not through flight, not through flu powder. They are using thestrals, which are these like demon horse looking things that can only be seen by people who have seen people die. They can only be seen by people who have seen death, right? They are using thestrals and a carriage to transport the world's most dangerous wizard, by the way. This is the most tyrannical wizard, so much to the point that he has this cult following that's causing people to commit all these crimes and stuff, right? So, okay, again, makes no sense. Why are they using something that can easily be as intercepted, right? When you're transporting the world's most dangerous wizard from one place to another, why are you taking it where people can just completely ambush you in open space. It makes no sense. It's stupid. Again, it's convenient storytelling from J.K. Rowling. It's just a way to get the character from A to B conveniently without actually having it make sense in the story itself. That doesn't make sense. The whole Nagini stuff, right? The whole Nagini thing. Apparently, this was something that she'd thought of way back in the day. This is something that she'd thought, and this is something that J.K. Rowling's become, and I included, criticise her very much for. This retrospective, changing stories and changing things of characters, right? That she does on Twitter, and when people ask her like certain things, like, "Oh yeah, this Nagini thing, it's something that I've had in the pipeline for 20 years." What are you on about? What on earth are you on about? You are literally you are a crazy person. You are a idiot. You are dumb. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You created this world and you don't know what you're talking about. In no way, shape or form was it ever suggested that Nagini in the original films was once a human. Ever. It was never suggested. Ever. And don't forget, at the end of this film, Nagini is on the good side, right? Working with Dumbledore. So, you mean to tell me that Dumbledore didn't know that Voldemort's snake was a woman? He didn't think to tell anybody this. He didn't think to tell Harry or Hermione or Ron or Snape or anyone, right? That Voldemort's snake was, he knows who this was. It was a woman. No, nothing? Okay. It's just, she does it for convenience. It's because it's convenient to the story. And look, I'm up for people changing things as long as it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. She's just picking things out of her arse to, like, create a story over. Having Nicholas Flamel in this film completely takes away the mystique from that first film of Nicholas Flamel. Like, we never get to see him, but he's this really powerful alchemist who, you know, friends with Dumbledore, right? And all this. And he's played like this frail, old, crazy person, and it just takes all the mystery away, and it's boring to see. And that's not all, by the way. At the end of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, we have the spell that gets shot up into the sky. It's the memory charm. It's escaping me. The Obliviate charm, right? And it gets shot up into the sky, comes down as like this rain, and washes away all of people's memories of wizards. And apparently, Queenie, who Jacob was romantically involved with in the first film, she has put this spell. She's basically drugging Jacob to be in a relationship with her. Basically saying that the spell only took away his bad memories. Then why on earth do you feel the need to, like, possess him and take control of him and force him to be... He is more than willing to be in a relationship with you. Like, his whole character in the first film was that he's smitten over this woman, right? He's smitten over the character of Queenie. He's obsessed with... He's really fascinated with her, right? Why? It doesn't make sense for the character that we saw in that first film, this really sweet, nice, caring, kind person, to basically mentally rape someone, to roofie them, and just take control of them and force them to be with them, even though that person has made it very clear that he wants to be with them anyway. So, again, convenient storytelling that makes no sense, and there's so much stuff like that in this film, guys. Honestly, it's so bad. Like, the plot holes and the convenience in this film are terrible. Like, why do the government want to recruit Newt? That's another thing. That's another thing that makes no sense as well. It makes no sense for Newt Scamander to be in this film. Throughout the entire film, it makes no sense for him to be in this film. The character of Newt is basically a zookeeper. He's a walking zookeeper. He's not a powerful wizard. He's not an aura. He's not, a dark wizard fighter. He got his arse kicked by Grindelwald in the last film. He got literally destroyed by Grindelwald in the last film. Why do they want to recruit him for? Why are they so obsessed with recruiting him? Why does Dumbledore have such an obsession with trying to recruit Newt? And try to make him fight on their side. Like, he's shown nothing to show that he's a powerful wizard or he's got, something special about him which separates him from everybody else. He's never shown anything like that. So it doesn't make sense. It makes no sense, guys. It's the dumbest thing ever. It makes no sense. And then the whole thing at the end with Corvus Lestrange, for me, they've got to retroactively change this and say that Grindelwald was lying. They have to. Because, again, another thing, it makes no sense. Right? It makes no sense. How do we not know in this original series that Dumbledore had a secret brother? For one, that makes no sense because Aberforth is the eldest brother. He would have knew what was going on. He would have knew that Dumbledore. He would have knew that he would have had a secret brother, but he never told Harry, and so that never comes up. Again, it makes no sense. This has got to be something that's changed retroactively in the third film. It has to. If they go along the line that he's actually this Aurelius Dumbledore, then that's dumb and it makes no sense. Away from the terrible storytelling and the terrible screenplay and the terrible plot holes, this film just isn't very good on any level. The action sequences are boring, poorly choreographed. They are just overblown. They don't make any sense in the story. They're just forced in. Again, like I say, why is Newt even there? They try and have this cute animal Pokemon film shoved in this dark telling of the first Wizarding War, which apparently Newt had no involvement in. He was never brought up in any of the in the exploration about the first Wizarding War in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, where they're talking about Grindelwald and Dumbledore having this big fight, this big massive fight to end the first Wizarding War, the greatest duel of all time. No one ever mentioned Newt in there, right? It was Dumbledore, Grindelwald, Aberforth, and Ariana. Right, that was the big fight. That where's Aurelius in this? Where's even if this ends with Dumbledore beating this first duel, right? Where was Newt in this? Where's Aurelius in this? Like, I can't get it. Just literally makes no sense, guys. It's just terrible. From start to finish, it's terrible. The action's terrible. The cinematography's terrible. The visual effects are terrible. The music is just stock sounding bollocks. It's just terrible. It's one of the worst. It's definitely the worst film in the series. I did debate whether it would be Half-Blood Prince. It's not Half-Blood Prince. At least Half-Blood Prince has some coherence in there, and the story kind of, it makes sense in the world, I guess. This literally makes no sense at all. And for people who are fans of this series and have been following what has been set up in this series, it makes no sense what we learn in this film or what we've been given in this film. The characters feel forced into the story. I've always said this about the Fantastic Beasts films. I feel like they're telling the wrong story. They're trying to tell the story of Newt Scamander in the backdrop of the First Wizarding War. That's what they're trying to do. But no one gives a fuck about Newt Scamander. No one cares. Like, the only reference he got in the Harry Potter main series or books was that he wrote a storybook that was in Hogwarts. He wrote the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. That's his whole involvement in that original series, right? Nowhere was it mentioned that he was this all-powerful wizard who worked with Dumbledore and he helped defeat Grindelwald and all this. It was never mentioned. They used the Accio spell, for example. And this might sound like I'm a nerd. I don't care. This is what has been set up in the series. This is the stuff that J.K. Rowling set up herself, right? She set up herself, for example, the Accio spell, which doesn't work on living things. It only works on non-living objects like a cup or, a chair or a desk or a book or whatever. It doesn't work on living creatures. So why is Newt able to call things to him using the Accio spell? Like, whatever. Makes no sense. Stupid. This film's just a mess of plot conveniences, plot contrivances, just, you know, plot conveniences, terrible screenwriting, poor visual effects, poor action, forced in characters, poor performances from the actors. Johnny Depp is terrible as Grindelwald as well. I'm glad he's replaced, even though the circumstances that he's being replaced with are kind of sceptical. I'm looking forward to Mads Mikkelsen's portrayal of Grindelwald. I think he'll be a better version of this character. I don't like Johnny Depp in this role. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But please let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think of Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think it's shit awful like I do? Or do you think it's a good film? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Right, that will be it then for today, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around and listening to me rant about some Harry Potter films. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you want to listen to the audio-only versions of my podcast, make sure you jump into the description down below. You'll find links to my SoundCloud and my Spotify account. So you'll be able to find the audio versions of this podcast in there. If you don't want to look at this dumb face talking about films, you can always listen to this lovely smoothing voice talk about films instead, if you'd rather prefer doing that. So, also, I forgot to mention as well, I don't know when I'll be doing a podcast next. It should be fairly soon. I'll try and do one on Sunday, but it's going to be difficult to do. I'll try and do one on Sunday. If I can't do on Sunday, I'll try and maybe do on Saturday. I'll try and do one the day before. It's going to be tough. Basically, I go back to work next week, so it's going to be hard to kind of find time to do the work, look after my child, spend time with my missus, spend time with family, and try and do this podcast in between. But I will definitely try my hardest to get more podcast episodes out for you and to carry the discussion about talking about films. Right, with that being said, guys, you've been watching YMB Movie Talk. You've been listening to Simon Mansell, me, the host. And I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you've had fun watching it. Make sure, like I said, you jump in the description down below to check out my Spotify and my SoundCloud. Make sure you check out that tip link if you want any questions answered on the show. You can send in any questions that you have into the tip link down below, and we'll talk about films and stuff. It's been great. Have some fun, why not? Right, guys, I will see you very, very soon. Love to you all. Take care. I hope you look after yourselves, and I'll see you all very, very, very soon. See you later, guys.